Coming off a dream season that culminated in a national championship, Notre Dame's Muffet McGraw is directing a team in transition this year. The Irish features 6 freshmen heralded as the best recruiting class in school history. Meanwhile, Big East nemesis UConn has perhaps the best starting 5 in the nation. Sophomore Diana Taurasi is a long-range threat with a surefire attitude. And with 4 seniors leading the way, the Huskies have been ranked #1 from the opening bell. Today, Swin Cash, Sue Bird and company look to add to their furious 20-0 start. It's Notre Dame and UConn next. A sold-out Hartford Civic Center, 16,294 on hand to see the #1 UConn Huskies host arch rival Notre Dame. Welcome, everyone. Michelle Tafoya, Doris Burke. Great to have you along with us. Notre Dame's a different team, Doris, but this is still Notre Dame. They still knocked UConn out of the tournament last year, and they want to win this game, the Huskies.
Well, I think Diana Taurasi in particular, 1 for 15 in the national semifinal. She's motivated. Sue Bird said she doesn't cry about it, but it's in the back of her mind.
Indeed it is. As they get ready to tip it off, Diana Taurasi has been furious, and there is the freshman phenom, Jacqueline Batiste, tipping for Notre Dame, but UConn opens with possession, and the crowd is standing. Swin Cash taking the first shot, and Alicia Ratai coming down with the rebound for the Irish.
2 keys for Notre Dame to start this basketball game. #1, they must contend with the rebounding ability of Connecticut. Also turnovers. They've had a problem all season with it. And there's one early by the senior Erica Haney, and the last one you'd expect to be turnover prone.
Starting lineups: Janika Joyce, Ratai, Haney, Batiste, and Barksdale, Taurasi, Bird, Jones, Cash, and Williams. 334 career starts to about 170 for Notre Dame. So you see the experience factor is going to be a huge key. Right now, this crowd's still on its feet as neither team can score a bucket. That won't last long.
Well, the defending national champion, Notre Dame Irish, obviously for Muffet McGraw with the 6 newcomers in transition. Those newcomers starting to get a sense of their role, as you see 73% of her games. And the national champion a year ago, Michelle, and basically the consensus coach of the year a season ago.
Terrific season she's coming off of. And Asia Jones finally drops one in for the Huskies, and the crowd can now get comfortable, because this should be an entertaining one. This is one of the best developing rivals, certainly in the Big East, but nationally as well, as Notre Dame continues to become a national power.
Now, this is the rivalry that has largely defined the conference over the last several years. Yes, there was a time where Rutgers was involved in that. They're struggling mightily this season.
Batiste looking around. Yeah, Rutgers having a tough time. Shot clock down to 2. Does Erica Haney know? I don't think she even had a clue. Erica Haney, one of the returning starters on Muffet McGraw's squad, but she has not possessed the leadership that McGraw has been looking for from her.
And you remember her performance against Connecticut in the semifinal, a double-double for her, and the expectations for her own game were high this season. They have not come to bear.
Asia Jones the miss, and Notre Dame, the rookie, coming down with the rebound. Jacqueline Batiste, the preseason Big East Rookie of the Year. A lot of hype. So far, she's living up to it.
Straight man-to-man, and Tamika Williams gets the assignment on the rookie, Jacqueline Batiste.
Shot clock down to 7. They're really making it tough for Notre Dame. Ratai has it blocked. 1 second on the shot clock as it is called out of bounds. No, it's a foul call, and I believe it's on Swin Cash.
Now remember this, Notre Dame has never been a team that's been great at getting its own shot, creating its own when the shot clock runs down. You know, the best at that a season ago was Niele Ivey, who could go off the bounce. Ratai improved in that regard, Michelle, but not a shot creator.
Taurasi with the rebound. You are looking at perhaps the best player in the country, and that's just one of the reasons why. The assist numbers, 6th in the conference with 5.2 a game.
Certainly the most entertaining player in the country at this point.
I completely agree. And a charge called on Batiste. Connecticut is a team that can really jump on top of you quickly. Outscoring opponents 267 to 119. in the first 5 minutes of games this season.
They'll give you a nice shot to the stomach, and you better be able to take a standing 8 count against this team because they will throw it at you.
Barksdale with the rebound. And that's one of the big challenges for Muffet McGraw and this young team, because she said her freshmen have been a little bit nervous on the road. They've done okay at home, but just 2 road wins this season.
You can see they're struggling to get anything going. This is just straight up man-to-man. Connecticut not throwing anything fancy at them.
Tenacious. 9 on the fresh shot clock after a foul is called. And it's on Tamika Williams, her first.
You've got Williams, Jones, and Cash, all 6'2", but very athletic. And they check Williams on Batiste, a perimeter player. She's got the athletic ability and foot speed to guard her.
Tamika Joyce handling the ball, playing with a sore Achilles. She's had a number of injuries, but that one seems to be the most problematic. Williams the rebound, outlet to Bird. Bird almost loses it. Muffet McGraw came into this game saying, our weakness is their strength. We turn the ball over too much, and they capitalize on turnovers. 9 on the shot clock now as Bird drives. And there is a UConn turnover.
Now, Notre Dame going to throw a lot of different defenses. They've played a lot of man-to-man this season, but expect some jump today. Box and 1, triangle and 2, all sorts of zones just to shake Connecticut up if possible.
Ratai driving, puts one in for Notre Dame.
Yeah, see, she's had to improve. The best, may go down as the best three-point shooter in the history of the NCAA before she's finished, so they close out hard on her.
And now Batiste blocking Sue Bird's shot. And a timeout. So very little scoring early. Number 1 UConn leading Notre Dame 4-2. The first half, low scoring affair here at the Hartford Civic Center. Not exactly what one would have expected in the first 4+ minutes. Particularly from Gino Auriemma's squad in his 17th season. A 3-time National Coach of the Year has an 82% winning clip with the Huskies.
The only 2 coaches ahead of him in terms of winning percentages. There you see it, 445 wins. Pat Summitt winning 83% of her games, and Leon Barmore winning 85% of his games. And Notre Dame looks to come out in a 2-3 zone. Connecticut just 2 of 8 to start this basketball game. This is a team that is always in the top 3 in field goal percentage.
Williams now blocked by Barksdale, the best shot blocker in the conference, and they will rule that this one stays on this end.
And Notre Dame comes in leading the conference in block shots. They get over 6 a game. You've got to contend with Barksdale in particular, a very solid defender.
Barksdale missed a few games early, but she's made up for lost time. Quick hands of Williams, and they'll say it's UConn's basketball. 5th turnover by McGraw's team.
They were running a stagger screen on the right sideline, or the right lane line, and trying to free up Ratai, but it was well scouted by Connecticut. Good help by Williams.
Swincash driving off the glass. Rebound by Williams and the putback.
Yeah, why does Williams shoot 70% from the field? She shoots shots like that. She just checks in. Excellent positioning on the offensive board.
Tremendous field goal numbers from Williams, and you're absolutely right.
Good
high
shots.
percentage
Yeah,
shots.
that'll give you a high percentage. And this is a soft 2-2-1 pressure. Connecticut comes with falling back into a man-to-man.
8 on the shot clock again, really forcing the time issue with Notre Dame. Haney's shot no good. Rebound goes to Bird.
4 white jerseys in front of 4 blue jerseys.
And now Batiste reaching in for the steal. Batiste, number 21. That's the 2nd turnover by UConn in this game. And now Batiste driving. Off with the right hand, and finally Asia Jones comes up with it short on the pass. Bird is there.
Well, you can see Batiste is a player who could create her own shot. Now, obviously solid off the dribble. She's got range. Batiste, one of the best rookies in the conference.
And that shot just looked like Swincash was forcing it. And now the 3-pointer, an air ball. They'll let it go out of bounds. Ball back to the Huskies, and Notre Dame making its first substitution now. bringing in Teresa Borton, another impressive freshman out of Yakima, Washington, West Valley High School, 6'3" center, 19 years of age.
Her choices for schools came down to Notre Dame and Connecticut Borton, and it was head-to-head. It went late into the signing, and finally she elected to go to South Bend. It was the first time Muffet and her staff went head-to-head with Gino for a player and won out.
Big moment. And another big moment on the floor for Sue Bird coming up with the three.
Yeah, she is just sensational. Very selective with when she shoots the basketball because of her mentality. She's unselfish, but she can stick it.
So Notre Dame just 1 of 7 from the floor. UConn 4 of 13. The shooting numbers not great here early. Batiste. And now a foul called. It'll stay on this end. We are at the Hartford Civic Center. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, everyone. #1 UConn hosting Notre Dame. Alongside Doris Burke, Michelle Tafoya looking at the #1 team in the nation. Facing a nemesis, Notre Dame, defending national champs, but off to a difficult start. Remember that this series last year was the most exciting nationally. I mean, you always talk about Tennessee, UConn, but Notre Dame really got in the fray, getting their first wins ever against UConn last season. First one came on Martin Luther King Jr. Day last year. Ruth Riley and company with a huge win, their first. And then we go to the Big East Championship game. Final Four. Semifinals was the third game between these two, and that was a Notre Dame win as well. The Big East Championship game came between those, of course, and that was UConn's only win in the series last year.
Sue Bird playing the hero in the Big East Championship game. Diana Taurasi was the most outstanding player. But the one thing Notre Dame hasn't accomplished is winning here or in Gamble. They made great strides as a program last season, obviously. But this building in Gamble has been a very rough ride for the Irish.
And it has for a lot of teams. But Muffet McGraw will tell you she is just so competitive. It would be a milestone for her to be able to come up with that win here.
Well, I think this year has been harder than she anticipated. She knew there would be times where they would struggle. The turnovers are an issue and have been all season.
Almost coming up with them one for them. Sue Bird wide open, three-pointer. Count it.
Her mentality is a little bit different this season. She's averaging just under 14 a game, but understands her offense more important to her team this season.
6 points for Bird. She's got half of the Huskies' output. And here comes Latanya Severe running the point now, getting more minutes this season than ever. We're tied. Rebounded by Jones. Third rebound for Jones, and now Taurasi looking to get in the act. Tamika Williams and one.
Job one when you come into this building is to make sure offensive rebounds are taken care of. You don't want to give Connecticut second chance points, and they've struggled offensively, have not shot the ball particularly well out of the gate, but watch the position on the weak side. You got two white jerseys, Tamika Williams, Asia Jones, two solid bodies competing for boards inside. Another easy shot for Tamika Williams.
You see her numbers there, makes the free throw. She's a 68.5% free throw shooter. And extends the lead. 15-2. Notre Dame has one bucket in this game. And Gino Auriemma does not want that fact lost on observers of his team. Yes, offensively they are powerful, but defense makes them go.
I think that's the most impressive thing. This is a team that leads the country 90 points per game, folks, but they're second in points per game, giving up 57. Now, you'd think by the number of points they score, Michelle, it naturally translates to your opponent's points per game going up, but they're so solid both ends.
Yeah, opponents with this fast-paced style getting possessions. But UConn doing very well, forcing turnovers, stealing the ball, blocking shots. Manages to keep their opponents in check and then some.
You can see what Notre Dame wants. They want the pace right here. They don't want this thing up tempo.
Borton's shot won't fall. Bird driving, tripping. It'll go out of bounds. And a foul call.
Notre Dame being very deliberate on offense, with Shell trying to get the tempo low, but having trouble scoring.
15-2, UConn dominating the first half, 11:22 to go. Not exactly Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, but a 39-0 finish would be one dream come true for Connecticut. And Doris, they certainly have the offensive and defensive firepower to do it.
Now you can see this, all the categories in which they lead the Big East. Now keep in mind, they lead the country in scoring as well, field goal percentage, rebound margin, and as we've already talked about, this is a team that's always in the top 3 in field goal percentage. You can see why. They get excellent shots.
Asia Jones and Swin Cash there for the rebound, and now they will call a jump ball. Possession arrow going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame 1 of 11 shooting so far today. And they haven't scored in 4.5 minutes.
Well, your difficulty in trying to control the tempo is maybe taking your team out of what you are successful in doing. And you know, that was a concern of this staff. Yes, we want to slow the pace, but we want to be good at what we do.
They're really struggling against UConn's defense. Just can't get the ball inside. This time they do to Borton. She's blocked by Cash.
No reset, so you got 7 to go.
Batiste driving, no basket, but a whistle and a foul.
Now, Batiste decided to stay home, and this staff's certainly incredibly happy. This group of freshmen that we've talked about, as high as number 3 in the country, and Batiste, the headliner. Borton goes. She's a solid inside player. Cash, twice in the pipes, no, but your other rookie steps up and gets a shot at the free throw line because of her ability to put it on the floor.
So Batiste finally getting some score, and just 1 of 2. Ashley Battle called for the foul, by the way, number 22 for UConn, making her first appearance in this game. And she has seen improved minutes and scoring, and there is Diana Taurasi.
Off a screen in a pick and roll situation. You better step up hard over the screen. Never go behind it. And you would like your post defender to hedge a little bit and get a hand in her face.
She loves that shot.
She's pretty when she shoots that.
Oh, it's sensational. And now Notre Dame getting some scoring from Allison Bustamante. First Beckett, freshman out of Miami, Florida.
She's really come on last several games.
Asia Jones after a weak battle for that rebound. And Asia Jones has 4.
But Borton actually looked like she had it in her hands, and Jones just came in and stripped it from her.
It's got to be tough when half of your roster are freshmen. Severe getting blocked now. And they've got to come to an environment like this where they've never won. Well, that fancy pass by Bird is saved. And Bird thinks about it, drives. Off glass, no, out of bounds. And they'll say it stays on this end. Monday night, ESPN has a full night of college basketball. Then at midnight, the evening concludes with the San Diego State Aztecs hosting Josh Davis and the Wyoming Cowboys. Big Monday presented by Bud Light on ESPN. For more, log on to ESPN.com.
Look at that position again.
Now, UConn was leading the rebounding battle early, and they continue to do so. Notre Dame lost the first 11 matchups with Connecticut, then won 2 of 3 last year. UConn still leading this series 12-2. And Jackie Batiste now, Doris, has 2 fouls.
There are 2 players, if you're Notre Dame, that you cannot afford foul trouble on. Batiste being one, Ratai being the other. Now, typically you see Muffet. She is a coach who, when a player gets 2 in the first half, she normally sits them.
Williams makes the front, not the back, and this will go to Notre Dame. A 15-point UConn lead. And still, you can honestly say, with 9:19 to play in the first half, UConn could be scoring more than this.
Yeah, they haven't shot it particularly well. They were 2 of 8 to start the game, but have started to heat up a bit.
Battle with another rebound. One of the things Gino Auriemma demands of his team is that their effort is consistent every single play, every single practice, and every single game. to say, I know we're not going to be perfect every time, but we should aspire to be.
There's been so much talk about the Big East, and with Notre Dame's struggles, him not having much competition in the conference, he said, look, we're essentially, no matter who we play, if it's Tennessee or Notre Dame or whomever, he said, we expect to play at a certain level.
Here's what he told us after shoot-around today.
We want our guys to get in the frame of mind. I don't care whether it's the first 5 minutes of practice, first 5 minutes against Tennessee, Notre Dame, the first 5 minutes against the worst team on our schedule. I don't care. This is how we're going to practice. This is how we're going to play, and we're going to do it like that every single day. Can you do that every single day? No. But can you aspire to be like that every day? Absolutely, and that's my job, to make sure that we're like that.
And it pays off with plays like that from Sue Bird. The steal, taking it coast to coast for the easy layup. 22-5, Connecticut leading.
Connecticut averages 10 steals in a game. In addition to holding teams to 30% shooting, they're going to turn you over and turn you over often. And there's not a team in the country at this point, Michelle, who does a better job of going end-to-end once they get possession of the ball.
Well, Williams has 5 rebounds, Asia Jones 4, Batiste has 4 for Notre Dame. But when you're playing UConn, you know you're playing a team that rebounds as though their lives depend on it.
Straight up man-to-man, anticipation skills by Sue Bird, steps in the passing lane, there's nobody back because the pass was to the point guard.
Yeah, well, Sue Bird is going. She's going far. She's a Naismith candidate. A little bit of her thunder stolen by teammate Diana Taurasi. And what a backcourt. Some people say they've never seen a backcourt this good in the women's game.
Nancy Lieberman just flat out said it. There's never been a better backcourt. Certainly it's the best passing backcourt that anybody's ever seen.
Barksdale. And it's almost painful to watch Barksdale with that wrap on her lower leg, but comes up with a bucket. And there is another rebound. Williams, and now tipped out of bounds. It'll stay on this end. Again, the stress reaction. Missed 4 games early in the season, but a tremendous shot blocker. Cuts the lead a little bit. 22-7, UConn on top. This is the last regular season game this season that UConn will play at the Hartford Civic Center. Along with Doris Burke, Michelle Tafoya, glad to have you with us. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. #1 UConn leading Notre Dame 22-7 in front of a sellout crowd of 16,300. Not the same Notre Dame team that we saw last season.
The roof is not on fire in this game. Ruth Riley now gone. Neil Ivey, Kelly Seaman. You can see what the Irish rely on their freshmen for. 49% of their points, 47% of their rebounds.
Severe capitalizing on the 4th UConn turnover.
Severe was the starter at point to start the year. Has struggled. He's a little bit more solid coming off the bench, and essentially, though Severe a sophomore, she really is a rookie. She did not play a lot last season.
Three-pointer is good by Kelsey Wicks, the freshman out of Gillette, Wyoming. And the answer doesn't come. Severe now for the rebound. A little bit of a run getting started here for the Irish. Batiste still on the floor with those 2 fouls you mentioned, Doris. Barksdale underneath.
Did she travel?
Yes, she did.
Yeah. Had 2 defenders around her, but that right foot came up a little bit as she tried to step between them.
Flecky is coming in for Notre Dame, and Maria Conlon in for UConn. So a couple substitutions.
Yeah, you can see what Muffet's trying to do. She tries to keep Ratai and Barksdale, 2 players that she's had in her system for a while, on the floor, because essentially you've got 3 rookies out there.
In a situation that can be very intimidating, even for seniors. Inside to Cash, who has yet to score a bucket. But she's rebounding. Later tonight on ESPN at SportsCenter with Kenny Mayne, Trey Wingo, and Matt Weiner. Is John Gruden staying put, or is he Tampa Bay bound? That's the recent rumor. 10 turning points for the Patriots and a busy day in the NBA. Kidd versus Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki having a great season in Dallas. For more, log on to ESPN.com.
We have plenty of highlights from the big Monday college basketball. Georgetown desperately in need of a win against Pitt. Ben Howland's team is for real, folks. They're worth a watch.
Notre Dame all over the place today. Swin Cash has been Big East Player of the Week 3 times this season. Co-Big East Player of this week. You see the averages, and now finally she gets on the board in this one. Muffet McGraw said, as you see the turnovers and the points off, that UConn capitalizes like no other team on turnovers. And there it's Williams coming up with the steal and drawing the foul.
It's a tall task to ask your freshman to minimize turnovers in a hostile environment. Flecky handling the basketball out front. Williams gets a hand on it. See, she gets so tight into her that if you're Flecky, you've got to rip through, be strong with the basketball. Instead, it's a turnover and more free throws for Tamika Williams.
Latanya Severe called for the foul. And Tamika Williams, one of the vaunted seniors in this class at 6'2", 21 years of age, out of Dayton, Ohio. Played at Chaminade Julienne High School. And Ariema knows he's got a special group of seniors on this squad. Makes them both.
And the leadership alone that's provided with the 4,000-point scores that you have there, and it's leadership by community. I don't think there's any one particular one of these players that's, standing out. They're all doing the job.
Tamika Williams doing the job today with 10 points. Kelsey Wicks missing on the 3. Tarazi has it. Conlon. And that's why she comes into the game.
And she was the last one to leave the practice facility yesterday. Sat around the perimeter and just shot 3. She knows the role. You either shoot it well or you don't play, Conlon. And she does her job there.
She had 8 points in 9 minutes versus Notre Dame in the NCAA finals. The losing effort, but she was a threat. All alone is Ratai for the 3.
You are looking at one of the great shooters ever. Set an NCAA record a season ago, 54% from three-point territory.
She's got 5. Bird working it around, and Williams, another high percentage shot.
Talk about a team that you've got to guard all 5 positions. It is typically one player who maybe you could slough off and maybe play a little bit lighter, but not on this Connecticut team.
Nope. Especially when you look at the notion that Williams has 12 right now, and she's not usually one of their, all 5 starters averaging double digits, but this is a nice performance by Williams. Now a turnover, and here comes Severe. Ratai. And Wicks flies in for the rebound. Putback is blocked. Bird, the dish to Conlon, who was not quite ready. Now Tarazi all alone. Off the back of the iron. Tipped out to Wicks.
I'll tell you this, Wicks has given him great effort off the bench. She's been aggressive offensively. Not afraid to mix it up on the defensive side.
4-minute mark here at the Hartford Civic Center. Number 1 UConn 20-0. Facing a very young Notre Dame team, and there's Wicks again.
But she understands that Connecticut is concerned about Ratai's shooting, so she gets herself to the weak side of the floor, desperately hoping for ball reversal, and she gets it.
Swin Cash working on Barksdale. Saves it, but it's into Severe. Wicks steps a little bit closer to that 3-point line, and the hesitation may have cost her.
She's not shy, though.
No.
Pass up an opportunity at a look. How smart. She's just so savvy. Her last couple possessions, the passes haven't been great, but boy, that pull-up in transition, if she has to use the ball fake, she will.
And Sue Bird now has 10. She averages about 14 a game, so she's almost there. Flecky is a player that Muffet McGraw is optimistic about as she passes inside to Ratai.
A good little find there. You can tell they're concerned enough, and Gino does not like what he sees. He's going to take a timeout.
Well, Notre Dame, after the first 4 or 5 minutes, was not finding a flow at all. Now they're finding a little bit, and there's plenty of time in this game to chip into this 33-19 lead. Well, it's Monday, and that means ESPN has a full night of college.
Kareem Rush to watch. If you're going to check out Notre Dame, the rookie Chris Thomas, an outstanding performer.
Remember how we talked about Diana Taurasi and her 1 of 15 shooting performance in the national semis? She's just 1 of 6 in this game.
And I think she's sitting, I believe Gino may be upset with her defensive prowess, or lack thereof, in this half.
Conlon, no stranger to the 3. Rebounded by Jones and now stolen away. Here comes Wicks. And Muffet McGraw shouting in the plays. Bustamante. Three-pointer, no good. Bird brings it up the floor for UConn. The pass. And Battle is fouled. She'll go to the line.
A pretty good find in transition. That's why Sue Bird, they get out so quickly. And Ashley Battle is a player over the course of the last 4 games has really started to come around for Connecticut. They have numbers early. Sue wisely from the free throw line. The dish down to Battle. The adjustment to try to get the 3-point attempt.
Misses the first, the redshirt freshman. 6 feet, 19 years of age, out of Pittsburgh in the Lindsley School in West Virginia. Makes the second one. 34-19, 2:16 to go. Hartford Civic Center, first half action. UConn on top. 34-19, number 1 UConn on top. It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Further importance, Connecticut actually went down to ground zero and toward ground zero as they were facing off against St. John's 2 weeks ago. And Swin Cash really moved by the experience.
You can't not be. Once again, working the clock. 5 on the shot clock for Latanya Severe. She notices it, launches the 3, and the rebound to Ashley Battle. 3rd board for Battle. And now she'll take the shot on the other end, off the mark. And can Notre Dame save it? They don't. Wicks losing it out of bounds. And a couple of substitutions. Sue Bird coming back in. And Janika Joyce comes in for the Irish.
Yeah, Joyce and Severe are basically splitting the point guard duties. Joyce, I think, more a natural 2. She's had some injuries to contend with, but certainly has some abilities.
And so does Asia Jones. That's a half dozen for the senior out of Piscataway, New Jersey. See the rebounding numbers. Offensive boards being dominated by UConn, and a travel. Another turnover. That's an even 10 for Muffet McGraw's Fighting Irish. And she knew it was coming. They average 18 turnovers a game. She said that's just a pace that, you know, we bring that here to Hartford against this UConn team, and they will make mincemeat of us.
Cheryl is just so pretty when she decides to play offense. Perhaps the most gifted of offensive players in that senior trio of forwards.
8 points. She led the team at Villanova with 19 points and 9 rebounds. A nice outing there at Villanova. And we're under about 40 seconds to go first half. And Notre Dame, again, really struggling. UConn is just doing a masterful job of keeping the ball on the perimeter. Wicks driving, 3 on the shot clock. And they, oh my goodness, how that went up and in for Teresa Borton at the last second. And with 19.2 on the clock, a timeout called. Coming up at half, Sports Center in game with Dave Revson. Is Gruden on the move? Sampras gets stopped down under. And the word on Bird, which is Sue Bird. A little behind the scenes look at one who will be considered a legendary player when it's all said and done at UConn.
95-4. This is her 100th game. She's only lost 4 times. Remember, she was 8-0 as a rookie, and then went down to the ACL tear, came back as a sophomore, lost 1 time, and then last season, the 2 losses to Notre Dame, the 1 to Tennessee.
That's remarkable.
And you can see why the general consensus is she will probably be, as well as Cash has played, the #1 pick in the draft, because point guard is the toughest position to find.
You said it. Oh, yeah. Whoever grabs onto Sue Bird in the WNBA is going to see a significant lift in their team's record, because she will do so much to get the offense going. And you're right. There just aren't an abundance of point guards.
Now, think about this. Last season, you see numbers today. Last season, Georgia became the first program. Andy Landers had 3 players drafted in the first round, right? But Connecticut, look at their starting 5. Could you have 5 first-round draft choices?
Hey, Gina Auriemma says yes.
Obviously, Taurasi will not come out as a sophomore, but she's got the ability.
Huge 3 launched up by Joyce at the half, but Auriemma's squad doing a sensational job. 39-21 lead. Sports Center in game coming up. Let's send it to Dave.
Sports Center in game, and UConn is back rolling past Notre Dame 40-21 at the break. 10 points in the first half for Sue Bird. Bird's career at UConn, as they talked about in the first half, has been kind of a roller coaster ride. She had that very severe knee injury her freshman year after just 8 games. Of course, won the national championship with the Huskies her sophomore year. Then her junior year, the very disappointing loss to Notre Dame in the national semis. Bird sat down recently with ESPN and talked about her hopes for the rest of her career at UConn, including potentially winning a 2nd national championship.
The interesting thing about me, I've learned about myself, is that I'm 2 different people on and off the court. I'm very quiet off the court. I'm outgoing, but at the same time quiet and kind of just go with the flow. And I've learned to have a second personality. I've always been like an athlete, so to speak. So basketball was just my first love, I guess. Soccer was my other main sport. I did track a little bit in high school, but I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my thing. I still miss soccer. You know, I often joke that I'm going to use my 5th year to play for the soccer team at UConn, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know. I think I might have lost my touch a little bit. I don't know. I think myself and my classmates have an opportunity to be the first class to win 2 championships at Connecticut. You know, we have a unique opportunity, you know, to win 2 in 4 years. I must have like a frequency for him, because I can always hear him. He may not really even realize this, but I can, regardless if he's talking about me or he's talking about another player on the sideline, I can always hear what he's saying. My parents, I can say this now, couldn't say it then, definitely, not that they did not want me to go to Connecticut. Like, they're happy with my decision, basketball-wise and everything like that, but I know they were big on Stanford and maybe a little bit Vanderbilt. Stanford was recruiting me more as a point guard, Vanderbilt recruiting me more as a 2, maybe a little bit point, and Connecticut really didn't specify position. They were just like, whatever, you know, if you play, you play. If you're good enough, you'll play. I just kind of followed my heart, you know, and I ended up at Connecticut, and I haven't looked back since.
40-21, UConn leading Notre Dame. Welcome back, everyone. Michelle Tafoya, Doris Burke, and Notre Dame struggling for exactly the reason Muffet McGraw said they would: turnovers.
5 freshmen will give her agita. 5 freshmen playing 12.4 minutes or more, and turnovers in a lot of different areas, running their sets, trying to get the shot clock run down, but they end up having one expire. Stepping in the passing lane, Sue Bird finishes on the opposite end. And Tamika Williams, boy, she is just sensational offensive rebounder, and a player who has been doing this her entire career. Takes a feed, an outstanding pass from Taurasi, but weak sideboard. She has made a living. Why does she shoot 74%? Because look where she shoots it from. If you can't make it chippy, you should not be in a Connecticut uniform.
And if you didn't know that before, Gina Auriemma will be happy to underscore that point for you. If you can't make those shots, what are you doing with a Division I scholarship? He has no trouble saying that to players who miss easy shots, and Tamika Williams hasn't missed many today. She's got 12 points, 7 rebounds. Here's another 2.
I'm going to tell you the truth. I know Michelle Tafoya, you could shoot 74% with those looks.
You think I could? I don't know. Not against UConn, however.
Their execution is outstanding.
Another steal. Taurasi coming up with this one. And all alone, Swin Cash with the easy bucket. That's the quintessential play. And look at Muffet McGraw immediately calling a short timeout, saying, look, we cannot give up the ball that easily. 44-21, and in the first 40 seconds, it's time to talk things over for Notre Dame. UConn getting out of the gate here in the second half almost as quickly, maybe even more quickly than they did in the first half.
You see Notre Dame, 4 turnovers before they even took 1 shot. They had more turnovers than field goals made, and outside of Rattay, they really struggled. This is the type of run, in particular here in Connecticut, where Connecticut will spurt you.
I like that as a verb. They will spurt you.
They will spurt you. You've got to be able to take it and come back on them, and very few teams have that kind of capability.
Batiste, the freshman, getting her own miss, and now blocked by Cash. Back inside to Cash, and she has it tipped by Barksdale. Still alive is Connecticut. Asia Jones in a collision with Batiste, a whistle and a foul.
Well, Dennis Dene was content to let that one go. Benita Spence was not.
First foul on Amanda Barksdale. And that will send Asia Jones to the line.
Here's your enigma if you're a WNBA coach. This young woman right here, because she's got so much polish offensively, but her personality is very laid back. Now, is she willing to step up at the next level and be a focal point offensively? Because the skills for Asia Jones are there.
And no one knows that better than her old teammates, Shea Ralph, Rebecca Lobo, Kara Walters, all here watching the action. Gino Auriemma has a really nice alumni base, and they are very loyal. They come to a lot of these games. But one thing to add to your point about Asia Jones, she is durable. She has played in every game since she's arrived at UConn.
One of the strengths of this basketball team is his ability to get great talent to play as a unit. And Cash, Jones, and Williams have been the perfect role people during their careers, and now they've stepped 2.
Rattay stepping 2 on that possession. She's got 9. 45-23. Cash spinning. Runs into Barksdale again. Here are the offensive rebounds, though. Again and again, UConn will go after it. And a foul called on Batiste, and that's 3 on the freshman.
Well, I think these officials have done a pretty solid job of letting these players play close to the post. There has been some contact and not a lot of whistles, which is nice to see. Advantage, disadvantage. I know you're not supposed to use those words, but essentially when you get down the block, sometimes it's difficult to say who initiated contact.
So far, Tamika Williams has done a good job of getting to the line. She is 5 of 6 now, and sitting on her 4th double-double, 15 points and 10 rebounds. Make it 16 and 10. One of the things about Notre Dame that excites Muffet McGraw is the prospect of next year.
Yes, well, all these players will have experience. She signed another good class, 2 incoming freshmen next season that are both highly rated, but of course Connecticut is considered the #1 ranking in the country. Gino's already signed 4 for next season.
And he'll have a tough job of replacing the assists of Sue Bird and the scoring prowess of Swin Cash, now with 6 points. But
textbook break. Why? I want you to watch what the point guard does. She's in the middle of the floor. She's going to stop at the free throw line because that's the place where you could see all your options. And her best option all season has been Swin Cash. But you get your point guard to stop at the free throw line. If she's not certain where you want to pass it, you tell her to hold her dribble and then allow people to fill lanes. In that particular instance, they get the quick hit.
And the quick foul by Sevier. And that allows Cash to convert and make it a 3-point play, 50-23.
You can see Muffet now. She went to the triangle offense several years ago. That's the offense she wants to get a look at here. And remember, this is to take help defense away. That's the what the basis of the triangle offense is. Isolate and get a good look, and a pretty good look right there. So good isolation on the post.
Drew the foul. And they called it on Asia Jones, her second.
Penalty foul number 15, Asia Jones. Her second personal foul.
Batiste now putting it on the floor, driving, another whistle. And that is the second on Tamika Williams.
Folks, watch this right here. As soon as they get this triangle, you can stop it, guys, please. Here's your triangle, and predicated on taking backside help defense away. Okay, so you get isolation on the post, and they ended up getting free throws, which is exactly what you want in the triangle.
And now they say that UConn tipped the miss out of bounds, so it's Notre Dame's ball. I agree with the call, but the crowd didn't.
Boy, Batiste is a nice, smooth-looking freshman. She's had a tough afternoon, but you could tell she could play.
Ruff on the inbounds pass. Here comes Bird being followed by Batiste. Passes it behind the back to Cash. What a play. 9 points now for Swin Cash on a beautiful look.
Boy, I'd say you better complete this pass, because if you don't, you're going to take a seat on the sideline quickly. But here is why she's special. Fundamentally sound, but has a little pizzazz to her game. I watched Sue Bird. Foot speed is outstanding, but the drop pass, yes, sir.
And you know Swin Cash loved paying that off. Misses the free throw. By the way, Batiste now with her 4th foul. She sent Cash to the line, and Muffet McGraw's leaving her on the floor for now. 17 minutes to play, and Batiste's arguably your best player with 4 strikes against her. Has it blocked. Here comes Bird again. Races by everyone else. Switch of hands.
She is scary good.
Now an even dozen. And Muffet McGraw needs to talk to her youngsters again.
And Gino needs to smile over there. This has been entertaining. Boy, you may not be a women's college basketball fan, but this team is worth a watch. I don't care who you are. Sue Bird's the best point guard in America, and I think perhaps the best player in transition. She finds people, or if you don't guard her, she'll score herself. Well, if edition on ESPN, women's college basketball in the afternoon. Sue Bird has had a tremendous day, 12, 8, and 3.
And Muffet McGraw, you wonder what she said to them. She has admitted to maybe raising her voice a little bit too high on the sidelines, but when she sees things like this, Doris, Sue Bird with the steal can't convert, but Latanya Severe knocked down. You know, Muffet McGraw, one thing she does have is depth, but it's all very young. She said, I thought it would be great to have a deep bench, but, you know, we can't get our rotations down. And now Latanya Severe has 4 fouls. And so she'll take a seat on the bench. And in comes number 44, Allison Bustamante.
Oh, think about this. When Notre Dame won the national title a season ago, they did it essentially with 6 players, a 6-man rotation. So when you lengthen that bench, as your program gets better and more kids want to play for you, that's an adjustment you have to make as a coach, balancing those minutes, understanding when subs need to come in or go out.
And as you said earlier, there's another steal and a foul on this one. As you said earlier, it's been tougher for Muffet McGraw than she thought it was going to be. She said, you know, you can tell yourself it's going to be a drop-off year, and I've got freshmen, and I've got to deal with the transition. But she said, but actually going through it has been very tough on me.
Great competitors have a distaste for losing, and you can rationalize in your head all you want. Yes, I'm young, but you still think you can play. There's no doubt the future of this rivalry is in great hands. The future is just not now for Notre Dame.
Yeah, the future appears to be UConn's.
Think about this also, Michelle. The situation could be reversed a season from now. You're graduating 4 starters if you're Gino Auriemma. And Notre Dame lost Ruth Riley, Niele Ivey, and Kelly Seaman. Gino will be in the exact same position a season from now. He's got a great class. He may have as many as 2 freshman starters next season. Maybe 3, depending on how quickly they develop.
I'm glad you brought that up, Doris Burke, because I was thinking of that earlier, and it's hard to think about UConn ever having a drop-up because he does just reload and reload. But you're right. The bulk of his team is this senior leadership.
It says that Jones, Cash, Williams, and who am I missing? Bird. He said there, I don't think I've had a group that individually or collectively have had as big an impact on my program. He's making a huge statement. He had Rosati and Lobo, figures that loom large over this program.
Right. Yeah, to put this senior class in such high esteem is really saying a great deal.
You can go all the way back to when this program started. He gets Kerry Bascom, which was his first huge recruit and probably the toughest Connecticut Husky ever.
And now, if you're going to talk tough Connecticut Huskies, how about Diana Taurasi defending Bustamante? Will she live up to that toughness as Wicks sinks a field goal?
Well, I like Wicks' mentality today. She's been aggressive. She has a nose for the ball.
One thing about UConn, they'll get out in front, but they don't stop playing. They still look for the best out. Great pass from Bird to Jones. And the intensity doesn't drop off for the Huskies. "15 minutes to go here at the Hartford Civic Center. Sellout crowd, 16,300 on hand. And this group of 6 games here at the Hartford Civic Center this season sold out long before the season began. 59-27. It's a tough afternoon for Muffet McGraw when she watches this kind of talent taking on her young team. Muffet McGraw does not like to lose. We'll hear about it when we come back. 59-27, 14:50 to go. We told you Muffet McGraw hates to lose. How much? Let her tell her yourself.
I just hate to lose, and I'm just not a good loser. So every time we lose, it gets harder and harder for me to figure out why, to get the combinations. I think I've continued to put the pressure on myself to figure it out quickly. You know, we've got to fix this right now. Overall, I think I'm really pleased with what's been going on.
Pleased because she does see some gelling. They've won 8 of their last 10. And pleased probably because she sees some improvement on the part of these freshmen.
Now, they've started to come around. You look at the numbers inside the Big East Conference. I mean, a group that has got to adjust. You certainly don't want to come into a hostile environment like this to have to adjust. But in the Big East Conference, this team has started to come around. Their points per game are up. Their field goal percentage is up. This is a tough measuring stick. And I think if you're Muffet and the staff, you don't talk about this loss when you're finished with it. You could look back at other games. They didn't even address Connecticut. They had Providence on Saturday, then drove through a snowstorm. Saturday, got here late, and then practiced here yesterday and Sunday, and didn't address Connecticut until yesterday's practice.
Well, that's a good way to keep it a normal game on the schedule. Normal stuff for Super, and even a smile coming from the point guard after making the big 3. Keep in mind, she's got 17, while Diana Taurasi is still sitting on 2 points, 1 of 7. It's mysteriously reminiscent of the 1 of 15 performance from Taurasi in the national semifinals.
Boy, that's a tough call against Jessica Moore. She was doing an outstanding job defending Borton on the post. She used her feet. Both players were working hard to get position.
And Maria Conlon back in for the Huskies. She replaces Taurasi. One of the things Notre Dame does well, and we'll see, UConn is managing to hit some threes, but they're generally a very good three-point shooting team. Tops in the conference at 42%, but they're just 3 of 11 here today.
Oh, it's a tribute to the pressure that Notre Dame's able to put at all 5 spots.
Notre Dame has has held opponents from the outside to 26% this season. That's second best in the conference. And they're doing a pretty good job against UConn as well.
Notre Dame foul number 31, Amanda Barksdale. Her second personal foul, 8th on the team.
Barksdale coming up with her second foul. And a missed free throw by Jessica Moore. Muffet McGraw also said we hope by January to be clicking a little bit. Well, we're almost all the way through January. They've clicked better.
You can see that they're still trying to keep the tempo slow. Why? Because they don't want it to be more of a route than it has to be. The turnovers continue to kill them. Essentially, you got a young team. You're using this, if you can, as a teaching opportunity. In the timeouts, Michelle, if you're Muffet McGraw, you're saying, look, we're going to play this game in 4-minute increments, and we're going to have goals in those 4 minutes. You know, maybe keep Connecticut to 6 points in a 4-minute period, if possible. But look at the turnovers, doubling up Connecticut.
Now look at their Big East 4-1. Their record overall 10-6. Scoring almost 70 a game. I don't think they'll get there today. Shooting the ball well. So there has been something to talk about for Muffet McGraw.
Yeah, they had come in winning 5 of their last 6.
Ratai, the jumper. Wicks going for the rebound. Here comes Bird again. It gets lost, and Ratai finds it. Wicks, three-pointer, no good. And a scrap for the basketball. It'll stay on this end.
Boy, I like Borton's physique, and again, she's got a nice solid frame in there. Really a matter of experience for her being able to compete for 40 minutes, Borton.
Again, Borton, if you didn't hear earlier, a recruit that Notre Dame stole away from Gino Auriemma. And as Doris, as you mentioned, first time, and that's a big win for Muffet McGraw. She may not win this game, but she won that recruiting battle.
Yeah, first time they go head-to-head in a recruiting situation, and Borton elected. It was tough. Now, she was an early sign kid, but you know, typically a kid has made her decision by that first day in the early sign, and you know who's coming. But Borton was a holdout, and she really struggled. She actually came back from a campus visit at Notre Dame and said to her father, okay, I've been there, but I think I'm going to go to Connecticut. And the next morning he woke up and it was completely different.
Boy, to be 18 and facing that decision. You've been through it.
I remember having my heart broken as an assistant coach on more than one occasion. You get very close to these kids. I think Christy Curry has spoken most eloquently about that, the coach at Purdue. You get to know these kids personally, have such contact, and then, you know, they say no, and it's a heartbreaker.
A heartbreaker on that possession as Maria Conlon throws it away. But Sue Bird is breaking the heart of Irish fans. The great pass to Swin Cash. She's been all over it. Sue Bird, Naismith candidate, lighting it up here today. A year ago on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, this score looked a whole lot different, but Notre Dame's roster looked a whole lot different with Ruth Riley in the middle. She joins us now by telephone. Ruth, you're in Miami, correct?
Yeah.
Working out and doing community relations. How difficult is it to watch this team that you know so well and coming off the national championship struggle as it is?
You know, it's hard watching the upperclassmen because I know, you know, how much they want to lead the team, but at the same time, they have a lot of young talent. So it's fun to watch them, and you can imagine how good they're going to be in a couple years.
Ruth, Notre Dame, throughout most of your career, struggled to beat Connecticut, but finally last year, the big one on Martin Luther King, which Michelle already alluded to, and then in the national semifinals. Can you talk about what that meant to this program?
Well, I think it was a huge hurdle for us to overcome, and once you lose and you just get on that streak, you really need something to gain confidence, and that's what happened the first time we played them, and we're able to win, and you know, I think that just propelled our season from there.
You know, Muffet McGraw has said that this team sort of reminds her of your freshman year when they were coming off a Final Four, but then they really struggled early and then kind of found themselves, and you guys finished that season pretty nicely, I think 22-10. Can you draw a parallel between your freshman season and what these freshmen are going through?
I can. I feel for them. I know what they're going through. Actually, I like Teresa Borton a lot, their fullest player. They have the freshman. I think they come in and they play hard, Jackie Batiste. And they have a great group of girls. I think it's just going to take them a while to click together.
Well, they won't be winning a national championship this year. You certainly led the way, Ruth Riley, to that. And let me ask you this, Ruth. If you were going to be able to make the #1 pick for Miami, if Miami had that top pick, who would you take?
That's a tough one, but I think Sue Bird is probably the top choice right now. She's just an amazing leader on the floor, and she brings so much energy to her team, as you can see. I think she's doing a great job here at Connecticut.
What advice would you give a rookie going into the WNBA? What was the hardest adjustment for you?
Well, I think it's hard coming straight from the college season to the professional level, and you have to readjust your goals and realize that coming into the pros, you know, you're kind of starting over again, and so you have to be patient with yourself and your game and try to learn as quickly as you can.
A lot of Notre Dame fans watching your career intently. Ruth Riley, thanks for joining us on the phone this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, good luck in Miami. Ruth Riley, 3rd all-time leading scorer at Notre Dame. Just a sensational senior year last year, capped off by the national championship.
The 2 free throws to win it with some pressure on her. Stepped up and drained the first one. Remember it? Trickled over the front of the rim. There was some anxiety, but had enough to clear it.
Just you saying that put a little nervous knot in my stomach again, as though I were reliving it. What a moment that was. Aja Jones now scoring her 12th and 13th points here. But Muffet McGraw does remember that 1997-98 season, Notre Dame coming off their first Final Four appearance. They lost Beth Morgan, Katrina Gaither, and 2 other starters. The young team had a young freshman, though, by the name of Ruth Riley, and you can sort of draw the parallel to Jacqueline Batiste. This young Notre Dame team playing in front of a sold-out Hartford Civic Center against the top team in the nation, Connecticut. Scoring over 90 points a game are the Connecticut Huskies. Doris Burke, Michelle Tafoya, great to have you with us on this Martin Luther King Jr. afternoon. And the score differential, also the rebound difference. And that's a constant with UConn.
Well, that's fairly accurate to their season numbers. Actually, it's a little below. They come in rebounding people by 18 per game. #1 in the nation in rebound margin. And you can see how well they run their sets. They're getting excellent shots, and they're only getting to their maybe second option. But execution has been so solid.
See Chris Daly getting hydrated there, sitting next to Gino Ariema.
She drinks 1 Diet Coke in the first half, Chris, and then another Diet Coke in the second.
As if she needs the caffeine. She's got enough to keep her mind flying. Just under 9 minutes to play here in Hartford. Maria Conlon finding Bird. Aja Jones.
She's got so much in her arsenal. You know, we've seen her score on power post moves. We've seen her score on the baseline 12-foot jumpers. And that time, a little fadeaway jump to create space, which at the next level she'll need.
She's got 15 points. Batiste reaching in for the steal. But Aja now with 15, she averages about 13 a game, so she's above her season average.
Yeah, she goes, he squares up, but she doesn't see the defense committing. They're standing parallel. She just goes straight back. She's so polished offensively.
Right up and over Teresa Borton. Diana Taurasi on the floor, 1 of 7 today. Wicks driving. And Kelsey Wicks has been aggressive.
She's not. She hasn't been intimidated in the building from the outset of this basketball game. She's looked for a shot. She's tried to make plays on both sides.
She's got double digits with 11. You have to ask yourself about UConn now and then how they keep up the torrid pace. Not really on that possession, but in general throughout the season. When you finally hit stride, how do you maintain it? And as Ariema has said, we're not going to be perfect every game, but if we go to halftime leading, I'll tell them, look, you know you're going to win this game. Let's make it entertaining for that sold-out Civic Center sitting out there. 70-39 to UConn leading on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it's a day that means a lot to UConn swim Cash.
This day means a lot to me just because of not only who Martin Luther King was, but what he stood for and everything that he brought about in this nation. And as you look at everything that's happened on September 11th, I think we have to reflect on what happened back then and the movements and civil rights and everything that happened just to really bring our country together. So this means a lot to me this day.
It was Booker T. Washington who said, as separate as the fingers, as united as the hand. And in the wake of September 11th, I think that comes into clearer focus, Michelle.
Well said.
That is probably a starter at center next season, Jessica Moore. Taurasi may end up having to play the one for this team. 2, 3, and 4 may be in question for Connecticut.
Well, Jessica Moore out of Palmer, Alaska. You know, that Alaska pipeline has worked well for Mike Krzyzewski, and now it's coming into play for Gino Auriemma. Oh, falling down is Batiste. She's in there with 4 fouls, and she gets up slowly. Moore losing it, chasing it down, tips it to Bird. Oh, what a great pass by Taurasi. Cash can't make it pay off, but UConn remains in possession.
Taurasi has hit more than one teammate in the head with a pass, and it'll probably be more before she's finished.
The quick dish underneath, again to Jessica Moore, who's now got ace.
The Bird can take an early seat in this one. It's an outstanding afternoon. The two best passers in the game on one team. Their assist-to-turnover ratio between them is outstanding. Bird is more than 3-to-1 assists per turnover. Taurasi 2.5-to-1.
Hey, it's the fundamentals that make them so good. There are the numbers that you reflected on, and tops in the Big East, certainly well up there nationally as well. And now Jessica Moore gets an ovation as she goes to the bench. And into the game, Ashley Valley, number 2, making her first appearance. 18 years old, out of Colchester, Vermont. Wicks off the mark, but her 11 points in this game, a career high. So Ashley Valley running things for the Huskies. Taurasi finally gets her second bucket.
I'm not sure there's a player in the country who squares faster or has a quicker release. As she squares to the rim so quickly, and it's off before you can get up in her face.
And perhaps what makes her most unique. Two opportunities for UConn right there on the break, and neither Williams nor Taurasi able to convert. But the uniqueness of Taurasi, as Gino Auriemma told us earlier, is also in her attitude, her demeanor. Really got one, yeah. A lot of the players that he recruits, sensational basketball players who, as you said, are very willing to be unselfish and play together. Taurasi is that way, but she has no trouble trash talking. And just a poor offensive sequence for Notre Dame. Another turnover, 30-second shot clock violation. Monday night, ESPN, and then at midnight, the nightcap, Wyoming visiting San Diego State.
Quinn Snyder at Missouri, one of the brighter young coaches. Kelvin Sampson has done an outstanding job. And Craig Esherick, after that great start last season, has struggled a bit early. Took him a while to get his first Big East win, and Notre Dame, a West Division rival, he needs that one.
A turnover by UConn. Rebounding numbers, UConn ahead 44-27.
And Wicks, she just continues to add on. Now a career-high 13 points. One of the lone bright spots for Muffet McGraw. Batiste has struggled all afternoon. Batiste just 2 of 10, 5 boards for her.
Wicks out of Wyoming, was Miss Wyoming basketball after her senior year. Taurasi the miss.
Be very surprised if Sue Bird takes another shot unless it's absolutely necessary. This one in hand, so this kid is just going to look to find other people.
Stacey Marin on the floor as well, number 12 in her first minutes in this game. Well, are you surprised?
Well, shot clock is down, and she's got no choice. Not going to let a shot clock violation occur, so she goes to the rim.
19 now for Bird. Well above her season average of just under 14 a game. Into Barksdale.
A good solid steal by Barksdale. She was a lone player coming back in the inside for this Notre Dame team. Gives you a sense of how young they are. The only post with experience coming back was Barksdale.
And now Barksdale will head to the bench. And Teresa Borton back in, replacing Barksdale. Later tonight on ESPN, it's
be interesting to see if the NFL rethinks that rule about the pass after the controversial call against Oakland.
Yep. People in the truck chiming in saying it was a great call, but I think those were Patriots fans in the truck.
Got to be a Patriots fan.
Now there's Wicks, and she continues to pile on. 16 now for Wicks, perhaps the lone bright offensive spot in this game for Muffet McGraw's team. Wicks, the freshman. She was an all-state track star, too, a superb high jumper. And this one will go Notre Dame's way. 2:17, 78-46, number 1 UConn on the brink of its 21st win. Well, Connecticut is number 1, and they have been since the preseason polls. And as you look down the rest of the top 25, are there some dark horses that you like, Doris?
I think UConn has far and away separated itself from the rest of the pack. Oklahoma at 15-2. That Big 12, boy, it is brutal. Iowa State now with 4 losses. And Vanderbilt with a very good win at Georgia yesterday. They go to 18 wins. South Carolina, what a job Susan Walvis has done. Kansas State, folks, 17-2. People question their early season schedule, but then they go beat Baylor and Iowa State. So yes, Kansas State is for real.
And how about in the Big Ten, the surprise of, I can say the surprise of the century since we just started one, Minnesota, the turnaround under Brenda Oldfield.
They won all of 8 games, same personnel, Michelle, and they are out to a 13, they got out to a 13-3 start. They've lost a couple in the Big Ten, but look out for Minnesota. That's no easy get.
Upsetting Wisconsin yesterday. Yeah, they're no longer a team to be laughed at. 1:48 to go here at the Hartford Civic Center.
Yeah, Jane Albright has done a sensational job early. You remember the transfer of Nina Smith, but Jesse Stomsky and Tamara Moore doing an outstanding job for Wisconsin.
And doing an outstanding job on this floor. You have to give Notre Dame credit for really keeping their chins up in this game.
Yeah, they competed hard. They've gotten to a point where there's a tremendous amount of pride in this program, and it's been a tough afternoon, but this is an experience these freshmen will remember and hopefully use as motivation later.
That one thrown away. The pass by Ashley Valley goes out of bounds. 13th UConn turnover. They average about 15 turnovers a game. They may not get to that number tonight. Notre Dame will fall to 10-7, 4-2 in the Big East. And UConn, as we mentioned, perfect 21-0. But remember the 1996-97 team that they started out with 33-0 and then lost to Tennessee in the NCAA regional finals. I mean, you can have an undefeated season come to a halt for one reason or another. And that's when you don't want to lose the tournament. We are at the Hartford Civic Center. Number 1 UConn hosting Notre Dame, the defending national champs. Michelle Tafoya, Doris Burke here on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And Sports Center coming up at 6 Eastern. And then Big Monday, Georgetown, Notre Dame men, Missouri, Oklahoma, Sports Center again, and then a nightcap of Big Monday. Coming up after this game is NFL Prime Time. I'm sure they'll talk a lot of John Gruden's future. We talked about UConn being ranked number 1. Notre Dame became the 2nd school to drop from the rankings the season after winning the national title. Dominion in '86. Dropped out of the top 25 in the 5th week after winning the national championship the season before. Right now, it looks like a national championship is going to be contended for by the UConn Huskies. 80-53, the final. Coming up next is NFL Primetime. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. For Doris Burke and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Michelle Tafoya. ESPN is the exclusive home of the NCAA Women's Championship. Once again, UConn 80-53 over Notre Dame. Now let's go to Dave Ripson in the studio.